Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. This video will be a little bit of a serious video, and I would like to, not to justify myself, but I would like to explain and talk about why I started making these videos. Before I get into the main points, I would like to provide you with some information about my past. I grew up in Romania under a communist system where everything, not everything, but it was a very organized and disciplined society. In school, for instance, in workplace, the society was controlled. Not as controlled as this one right here, because it didn't have the technology at that time. Then after the fall of the communist system in 1989 in December, there was a period of time that was a transition where you have the lowest of the lowest pointing out to the older or the former leaders, and some of them creeping in positions of power by cutting other people's feet, not because they were good. I'm talking about, I don't want to generalize it, but I will tell you what I'm talking about. If you are good in something, you will not point out that that person is bad, so therefore you show a little bit more shinier. You just shine through what you are. So you're not going to start, if you're a painter, you just paint. You're not going to try to denigrate another artist's painting. Let the world see it. You just do your thing over there and paint. Well, some people try to destroy other people's art in order to be the only art available. So that's kind of what happened in Romania after 1989. And I was a idealistic young man, and I read a lot of books at that time. I think it was my most prolific educational time in my life, when I read a lot and I observed a lot, and as a young man I had very idealistic views and values. And I realized that what Romania, that became independent, free, democratic, and so on, was actually it was garbage, starting with the politicians, which seem to be the worst of the worst in a society, but that's how democracy seems to be. If you can fool everybody, then you get elected. Then I saw the mass media, which was garbage, the illiterate whores, and the lowest, the bottom of the society were presented on the TV as being the main culture, which would be like you would have here the dominant culture being the gangster rap, which we know it's a subculture. And I decided that that's not a place where I would like to be, because I couldn't fight the I was young, and I couldn't fight the forces that were opposing me at that time. And I thought that I was certainly at that time I didn't have the weapons to really fight it. I traveled around Europe, and then I got to the United States of America. And after all my travels, I realized that I thought, I felt, I understood that this country, United States of America, was the country that I would like to live in if possible. My wish was granted, and luckily I ended up in the United States of America. I went and I stayed in the Nordic countries in Europe, in the so-called paradise of socialism and equality. And so when they give me the examples of the Nordic countries in Europe, thank you very much. I do not want to live there. This is what I identify with, and that is more freedom or liberty than anywhere else I lived or I experienced. It's not to say that this is a perfect country. No, that's why I'm talking. Because I do not want this country that has values, that has ideals, as a society, to turn into a garbage country, which is turning into it little by little. And I will fight for it, because I don't want this fantastic social experiment that started with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. Yes, those old documents by white dead slave owners. That's how they're portrayed here, and all evil. Doesn't matter what they thought, they're all evil with their faults, like any of us. So I thought that this country is limiting and destroying its ideals. It's making a mockery. It's turning into a bad country. I have many examples, but I don't want to mention them here because people might feel offended, because people love their countries. I love Romania, for instance, but I don't like the culture it has and what it turned into. So the same here. I love this country. I love this culture, but I don't like the way, the direction some interests are taking it in that direction. Now, we, as human beings, we have preferences. We identify with certain ideologies. For instance, there are two, and I will use this not because there are two, we are bipolar, not like that, but it's plus and minus. So that's good and evil. So that's master mentality and slave mentality. If you want to get more familiar with these notions, and if you're not, I suggest you look into Friedrich Nietzsche, and you find over there very nicely explained what a slave mentality is and what a master mentality is. Well, in this country right now, there is a fight, a real fight, between the master mentality and the slave mentality. The slave mentality, for instance, I'm just going to give an example, is the one that wants to depend on others for their survivors. So, for instance, you want to depend on the government to feed you, to give you work, to take care of you, and also can unplug you whenever it wants. But that's the downturn of the so-called socialism. Now that's in my assessment, and very nicely explained by, as I said, the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. And then is the master mentality, attitude, which is the one that creates, improves. You can say it's individualistic, if you want to say selfish. It's that kind of mentality that you don't want to share with others if they don't deserve. If you want to be on your own, if you want to get what you earned, not what you deserve, but to be just. If I perform a work here, I want to be paid. I don't want to do anything else. And I want to be paid, and I should be able to also be an entrepreneur and do it on my own. Obviously, we can't always live by these standards, but that's an inner urge for some of us to have that kind of attitude of freedom and independence, and not dependency or dependent on some other entities. So the reason why I started making these videos, and there are some other reasons that I will not mention, but the main ones is my I don't want to say hatred, but my anger. That's the word, anger. That's the engine that pushes me to act when I see things that I consider being, I don't want to say unfair, unjust. So when I watch TV, which I don't really watch TV, I don't watch movies, but for enhancing my knowledge and to be able to feel the pulse of this garbage direction the country is pulled in, I look at those non-values on the TV, making millions of dollars, being on big news corporations, talking, and they're average people. And they influence people, and they are mediocrities. And I said, why? Why should other people keep their mouths shut? For instance, I watched from time to time these so-called comedians or opinion formers, shapers, how you want to call them, on the TV. These shows, and I'm thinking, this is the garbage that is pushed into our society. The other aspect is I deal with I deal with teachers, and teachers have curriculum to follow in order to teach our children, the new generation, the next generation, that will think in a certain way. I'm very disappointed. So one of the reasons why, the main reason, is because I said I can't stay silent anymore and let those mediocrities talk and make noise. It's got to be more like us that would speak up with courage. And besides, we all have ego, more or less, and we have to keep going regardless of the risks involved. Some risks there are over there, and we have to bob and weave for a while, but we have to work in this kind of environment. It's a war. We don't understand it. Sometimes we just go to work, come and get our beer and watch the game on the TV, and then again go to work and so on. That's not life. That's like you're in a cage. But some people are happy with that. I'm not. I'm not. And you are not, because you are right here. Otherwise, you would be somewhere else drinking a beer and watching the game. So I want to change things. I want to improve things. How do we do this? By pointing out our flaws. That's the basic stuff. It's not about being a nihilist, like just say, oh, you know what, the society sucks. You gotta say why it sucks and compared with what, and then provide, a way to get better. Now that's the way we should do it. The first thing is to observe, notice, acknowledge the flaws. Now if you stop just there, that's already a good point, because you observe it. The next one is act upon those. Analyze how you can improve. And if you can't, there will be others who will see these flaws that you might have mentioned, and they will take it and move from there. And so on. You can't do it all. You can try, but you can't do it all. So yes, I will point out how many flaws I think there are over there based on some values, based on some ideologies. And my ideologies are my Western civilization ideology. And when I talk about Western civilization, I don't talk about the current. I start with the ancient Greeks, and I turn into the Germans, philosophy, and Enlightenment. These are the values that I'm looking into. Yes, I look into other philosophers. I look into other thinkers. I look at Confucius. I look at Lao Tzu. I look at other. I even look at scriptures to get some knowledge from there. Even though probably you already noticed, I'm not a believer. So let's work together in noticing, acknowledging our flaws, our lives, our society's flaws, our country's flaws, and work to change them, to make them better, to improve them, to change them, to turn them into positives. But if we are blinded by stupid patriotism and we will not criticize what we see as a flaw, then we're stupid. So for those people who might call you or call me this and that and that. Do not care about them. Do not. Continue to work to achieve your goals. And your goals are self-improvement and your country's, your people, your society's improvement. And you're going to work for what's true and what's just. But for that, you have to be courageous, right? You have to be strong. You have to be smart. You have to look for the truth. You have to be objective. You got to be just, right? You have to be patient. Patient. You have to be moderate, right? Temperate. All these things you have to employ in order to succeed. And don't forget, with courage, you have to have courage. That's the main thing. If you don't have courage, that means you will never start anything meaningful because you're going to be afraid. Being afraid, you're going to be paralyzed. Courage. I'm not saying that what I'm doing here is something courageous. No. This is like you warm up before you get into the competition. This is a warm up, what's going on here. What we do here, it's just getting to the same denominator, getting to the same wavelength that we work on. And we gather, we form groups, we form organizations of the same wavelength, and then with a number, with knowledge, with courage, we can get involved in this society, and we can improve our society and grab it from these people who are trying to turn it into their vision of a society that we do not sign up to or sign up for. We just want it our way, and they wanted it their way. That's the way it is. They might like it differently. I don't like it that way. So it's going to be a competition that I intend to win, but not alone, with you and others like you. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and by that, be just. See ya.